OpenAI took a page out of the Anthropic playbook and announced to every journalist on Earth that their next AI model is super duper scary and dangerous. And because Sam Altman cares about your safety more than anything, he decided to hit the pause button on frontier reinforcement learning for the next 2 weeks. That's so controversial yet so brave, and the official reason is that OpenAI's next model, codenamed Astra, may have crossed the critical cyber capability threshold. And maybe that's not too far-fetched, considering one of their models recently escaped an evaluation sandbox so it could hack Hugging Face's production servers to cheat on a benchmark. But not everybody is buying this story, because nobody with half a brain actually believes they're stopping the largest planned training run in history for, quote, safety. There's an unimaginable amount of power and wealth at stake in the AI race right now, and some armchair experts say this is proof that AI has plateaued, while others say it's all about regulatory capture. But perhaps the most likely theory is what's happening 6,000 miles away in China, because coincidentally, DeepSeek just returned and released the fastest starred GitHub repo in history. In today's video, we'll take a look at DeepSeek Harness and find out if it lives up to the hype, or if it's just a cheap Temu knockoff of Claude code. If you know your AI history, you might remember that the entire TypeScript codebase of Claude code was leaked to the internet after Anthropic accidentally shipped a 57 megabyte source map file to NPM. Anthropic is famously smug about being anti-open source and anti-open weight, so this leak was like the invisible hand of God finally clicking public repository. We analyzed Claude Code's source code on this channel, and it was pretty mid, so it's not surprising to see Chinese knockoff harnesses popping up now. But wait a minute, you might be wondering, what even is a harness? Well, to get AI to write your code, you first need a model to spit out and predict tokens. That's the brain of the operation, but to do everything else, you need to strap on a harness that allows the brain to use tools, plugins, the file system, manage context, and so on. And the harness runs all these things in a loop that decides when to keep going and when to stop. Some popular harnesses are OpenAI Codex, Claude Code, OpenCode, and many others. But the DeepSeek harness takes a much different architectural approach that can be summarized in 3 words. Everything is a plugin. The model adapter is a plugin, the tools are plugins, even the sandbox and the UI and the while loop at the center of the coding agent itself are plugins. Or in other words, they're just ordinary packages that you can swap out with one line of YAML. And that's really cool if you're a developer, because it means you have a ton of control to customize your harness in ways that are not possible on other platforms. Like instead of using the sandbox Anthropic told you was safe, you have the freedom to use a custom sandbox from some random half-assed unmaintained GitHub repo. The whole thing feels like Linux, but for AI agents. At a deeper level though, this tool is built on a paper that was released by DeepSeek about spatiotemporal composability. The general idea is that components should be hot swappable, both as dependencies in the harness and over time. And they actually built a small framework called Quartus to facilitate this plugin architecture. Now, I've used many different terrible plugin systems in my days, like in WordPress and Webpack, but this paper from DeepSeek is easily the most elaborate justification I've ever seen for a plugin system. But the big question is, can the DeepSeek harness write better code than Codex or Claude Code? Well, at the same time of the release of the DeepSeek harness, they also released version 4 Pro of their flagship model, along with a massive price increase in the API. I happen to have $20 sitting on my DeepSeek account, so let's find out if it can build a production version of Horsetinder. For this one-shot prompt, I'm using V4 Pro with the max settings, but one thing to keep in mind is that you can point any different model to this harness. It's not just limited to DeepSeek's models. The first interesting thing you'll notice is that there's different modes for running this prompt. I'm just going to go with standard mode, but there's also a minimal mode that will speed things up, and a creator mode if you actually want to dive into the plugins and create your own stuff. After submitting the prompt, it immediately gets to work, and as it's doing its work, we can go to this trajectory panel where you can see all the reasoning, tool calls, and results in a way that feels like a stack trace for your AI model's thinking process. But pretty cool, and after staring at that for about 29 minutes and 58 seconds, I finally had a working application built with 2.6 million output tokens, which cost a grand total of 30 cents. It built the entire thing with Node.js and React, and at first I was a little bit disappointed with the UI. You'll definitely get more spectacular results with Fable or Codex, but this DeepSeek application is still pretty solid. The swipe animation was implemented well, it has a nice chat feature, and got the job done well on a bunch of other small details. So yeah, if I were Sam or Dario right now, I would be totally terrified and just give up on this whole AI grift.